Hello everyone, welcome to this video. So I got myself a very interesting web dev challenge today. I decided to create a project management platform with Kanban board where you can track tasks and issues, where you can invite users to collaborate, where you can assign tasks to users and all that. I decided to build something similar to GitHub projects. It was an interesting challenge, but as a confident web dev, I accepted the challenge gladly. It took me a couple of days to complete the challenge to a level that I wanted. There were so many things that I learned. There were lots of interesting barriers that I had to overcome. As a developer, these things are normal. In the end, I think I am happy with the outcome and the final results that I am going to show you. So I am going to walk you through a demo of the project, and then I will build it from scratch again with you. So it's going to take a couple of hours because it's a very large project. So I've divided it into two parts. You're going to learn a lot. All right, so are you ready for the demo? So as you can see, this is the landing page of the project. This is the landing page I could come up with. You can click get started or sign in. All right, so you can create an account, or if you have an account already, you can log in with email and password. But you can also continue with GitHub or Google, which I am going to show you how to set this up as well. Let's actually continue with Google for this one. And here, as you can see, there is one project that I am actually a member of. Before we create a new project, let me show you that you also have light and dark theme. If you go to the homepage, as you can see, we have the light version of this as well. And then when you change to dark, we also have the dark theme version. Right, so because I am logged in, as you can see, the buttons here are saying view project now. Alright, so I can go back to view project. Here I also see my profile, the menu that can take me to my profile. Alright, so this is my profile. Because I logged in with Google, it is just loading the image from Google. Right, so I can basically update the image here, name, and then your bio. Right, so let me put this one here. You can add some URLs as well. Right, so maybe your social URLs or something. All right, and then I can update my profile. As you can see, profile updated here. You can also view your public profile, what people would see if they are not the logged in user. If I click on it, so as you can see, this is how it looks like. Your name, the bio is here, and then these are the links you provided, and then you can go back to edit now because you are the logged in user, so you can edit your profile from here. You can go to projects, and as you can see, we also see our profile here as well. Right, and from here we can also edit from this side as well. We see all our projects. So at the moment we have only one project that we are a member of, right, and we have closed projects. So if we create a project and then we close it, we are going to see it here, and here it shows all the projects, so both the closed and active projects. Right, so it says at the moment it's just one active project. So if you have closed project, we will see it here as well. And we can also search for projects using the search. We can do a sort. Alright, so let me actually show you with a different account where there are multiple projects. These are two projects that this user have, right? And we can basically do the sorting from oldest to newest, and as you can see, it changes from newest to oldest. It changes as well. Let's see, for example, if I close this project here, it's going to say, are you sure you want to close the project? Yes, it closes the project. When I come here, I would see it. When I go to all projects, it will show me the closed ones and then the active ones. Right, let me reopen the project. You could see that there is close project, and then there is delete permanently. Alright, so let me do it again. So when I close the project here, as you can see, I can decide to delete it permanently, right, because it has been closed. That is if I want. Alright, so I don't want to delete it now, so let's reopen again. You can also basically search for projects. We will come back to this project again. You can create a new project. You enter the name of the project. So just as an example, I'm just going to say test project. You can give a description, it's optional, and you can also put a readme here. Right, so we are going to build this rich text editor ourselves from scratch. We're going to use Tiptap. We're going to customize the toolbar with our own icons. Right, so as you can see here, so we're going to learn how to build this as well. Alright, so you can provide a description and a readme, right? And then once you finish, you can click continue, right? So when you click continue, you're going to see these custom options that you can create them initially with your project, right? So sizes, priorities, labels, and all that to it. Is also columns, right? So columns are basically the statuses of your project, like backlog, ready, in progress, in review, done, right? So these are the columns that you're going to have. So you can decide to customize these, or you can decide to delete them and then create your own options if you want. So for example, I can decide to add a new option. Alright, so like maybe test or something. I can choose the color I want and I can click save. As you can see, it appears here. So these options that I create are going to be created together with a project. Alright, so you cannot edit them as well. Let me delete this one, because I want to keep the default options. You can create a new label from here, and let me cancel. You can also edit the label. As you can see, you can delete a label if you don't want. So if you're happy with these options, you can continue, or if you want to probably skip these options, you don't want to create these options initially and you want to skip them and create them later, you can also check this checkbox here which says skip default options. I'll create my own options later, and then you can click create, right? But I want to create them from the beginning, so I'm going to uncheck this one and then I'm going to hit create. Alright, so as you can see, project created successfully. And once the project is created, it takes me to the Kanban board. Right, so this is where I can begin to create tasks and track my projects. From here, you can also create new columns if you want. Right, so you have that option here as well. You can decide to add like a new task from here. When you click on a column, you see the options of the column, like the limits. I can increase the limit of the backlog to maybe 20, and for example, I can create a task. It creates the task. I can basically move the task around, right? You can put it in on this column. You can just move them around. I am going to show you the settings. Under project settings, as you can see, you can update the options here. Here you can close the project or delete the project if you want. Right, so if I click on delete, it's going to say delete project permanently. This action cannot be undone, so you just have to enter the project name and it is going to delete it. Right, let me cancel. We have the access management section. I can invite users to the project. Right, so for example, I can begin to type a name. It is going to look for users on the platform, and if you feel like this is the user you are looking for, right, so for example, I can select this user. I want to give them a read access, and I can click on invite. Once the invitation is sent, as you can see here, invitation sent successfully, I would see the user here, right? So it says pending invitation and the role is basically read. I can change it here because I am the owner of the project. So I can remove them as well if I want by selecting and clicking remove selected. But let's actually check the email for this user. So as you can see, this is the invitation. This is the email, and it says, hello, your name, Mr. Shadrach has invited you to test project on projects. Just have to click on this accept invite button, or you can just copy this link. So I'm going to click on this. Alright, and because I have not logged in, I have to first of all log in as the user. Alright, so I'm going to enter the email and I'm going to enter the password and I'm going to hit sign in, and yeah, it takes me to the project. Once I go to my projects, I should be able to see this project as well. Let's go back to the other user. If we refresh the page here, we would see that it's not pending because the user accepted the invitation. So let's go to label, right? So as you can see, these are the initial labels we created. You can create new labels from here. You can edit them, delete them if you don't want. If you go to status as well, we have the same thing. One thing I didn't mention initially was the fact that you can drag and drop these, right? So you see, as soon as I change the position of probably the first one to the second place, it detects that I have made changes and I have not saved, right? So I have to click on save to save my changes, right? Now these are going to appear the way you arrange them, right? So for example, as you can see, backlog is first, so backlog is going to be the first column. Right, so I'm going to save the changes, right? So you can arrange them anyhow you want by dragging and then dropping them, right? And you can also create new ones from here as well. It's the same thing with priority, right? So priorities are ordered from lowest top to highest, right? So P1 to P3, that is from lowest to highest. So if you change them, because these can be any labels, right? These can be any labels at all, but the order, as you can see from the notice here, is from lowest to highest. So if I change the position of this one, it means this is now higher than this, right? So depending on your labels, you can change them. If you use Kanban board, you would be familiar with how priorities work, right? So priority items are always going to be at the top of the Kanban board. The same with size, right? So from small, medium, large, extra large. Let's actually go back to the other user where we have a lot of tasks, right? Let's switch. It is interesting, whilst I was building this project, I was building the Kanban board, I was using the same project to keep track of the issues that I am working on for this project, right? So I have a lot of tasks on this particular Kanban board. As you can see here, you can also edit the details from here. You can hide a column from view, right? So let me show you. If I click on hide from view, it is going to hide that column from view. It's not permanent, right? So as you can see, there is a button here which says show hidden columns, right? So when I click on it, it is going to bring it back. You can see that the items here are more than the limit, right? So it is red here, and when I put a cursor on it, it says column limit exceeded. So I mean, that is what the limit is for. Here you can click on a task and it is going to open the options. You can basically add a description to this task, right? So you can click on edit and then you can add a description using the rich text editor. So you can decide to, just write something just to show you. You can decide to make it bold, make it H1, H2, right? Underline. We can make it a code. We can align to the center, right. We can justify, right, align left. We can make it a bullet. We can use numbers. I can click on save and it's going to save the description, right? Here you can add assignees, right? And you can also assign yourself. So if I click on assign myself, you can see it's going to assign me to the task. And you notice that there is a timeline here which is keeping track of all the actions that are happening on a particular task. So as you can see, this user assigned themselves to this task basically. Alright, so I'm also going to show you how to create this timeline because it's an interesting feature. For example, if I add a label, let me click on it and say this is maybe an enhancement label, right? So these are the labels I created initially. I can decide to click here to edit them from settings. It is going to add enhancements, and as you can see, it's been recorded here as well. I can decide to add priority. So let's say this is actually very important and the size is, let's say, medium, right? Start date, I'm not sure. Can assign a start date and then end date. When I finish, I can assign a date. And here I see all the participants of this particular project, right? So these are all the participants. Those are the users you can see here as well as assignees, right? So at the moment it's just this user, but I can assign multiple users to the project. Right, so when I click on it, as you can see, 2 users have been assigned to this. I can edit the title from here. I can copy the link and then open it somewhere. I'll share it. I can also open this task in a new tab. I have the task open in isolation, right? And I can apply the same customization to it. I can also delete it if I want. Let me close it and go back to this one. All right, so when I close it, as you can see, this is the task, right? And all the items we add are showing here. These are the users assigned to the project, right? As you can see, when I hover, like, you see the details of the user in a pop-up. Very cool. And I can basically move this if it is ready. So you would notice that when I move it, it moves, like I move it down here, but then it moves up, right? That is because of the priority. These tasks don't have any priority, right? So priority items are going to appear on top. If I decide to put this one here, you see it's going to go up. Even though this one have a priority of 0, this one have the highest priority, right? So it is going to be at the top, and then this one is going to come, and the ones without priorities are going to follow, right? As you can see from here. As you can see, we also have like a comment section down here, right? So I can say comment from, and I can add the comments, right? So the comments are also going to be added to the timeline. So if I try to, let's say, add another label, for example, let's just choose a new random label. As you can see, it's going to appear under the comment, right? So it keeps track of all the activities happening for a particular task, right? So if I add another comment, it's going to appear here depending on the time I added them, right? And then I can also assign a user, right? I can remove myself. It's going to say remove themselves from the task. I can assign other users, maybe this one and this one. It's going to say I assign these two users, right? You can see. All right, so here you notice that when I hover over the avatar, we get this pop-up, right, which shows like the user details, and I can even click on it to open that user profile, right? That is a public profile of the user, and I can also see the links down here, right? Yeah. All right, so if you go to settings again, let's go to access management. So all right, so this user only have read access to this project, right? So let's actually switch to the user, that is this user. So let's go to projects, and yeah, so this project, I am a member of that project, but I have only read access. And because I have only read access, as you can see, I don't actually see the options to be able to like update. I can't change the limits or delete the project or things like that. I can't even see the settings. Let's give this user write permission, right? So now the user has been given a write permission. So when I refresh it again, I now see the option side. So I can basically try to because I have a write rule or permission, I see their settings here as well, right? I can go to settings. I can close the project. I think I have to hide this as well. Probably missed it, but you can see I can't see the options to close the project or delete the project because I only have write. And when I go to project access, I can see the users, but I can't actually invite members, right? I don't have that. So as soon as we refresh, because we are admin, we can now invite users. Very, very cool. Right, so that is the role-based access management that we're going to implement as well. Yeah, then when I go here, you'd see that I now have the option to close the project but not delete. Admin users can only close the project, but they cannot delete it if they are not owners. All right, so now let's go to Insight again. Yeah, I just noticed this. These are also not sorted in the order, but yeah, it's something I can update like after, and yeah, make it, sort them in order that they appear. All right, cool. But as I said, you can choose different chat options here. All right, it's a cool feature that we are going to work on. And here I can choose by label, right? So documentation, this is enhancement, invalid, this is bug, right? So we have bug, 5 bug tasks. Alright, so we can also choose by size. Right, as you can see, we can choose by priority. Alright, so 6 with priority 0, 4, 1, 4, 2. Nice. And we can also group them by labels. Alright, so here let me make it a column. Alright, yeah. Alright, so here, alright, so priority and then label. So as you can see, we have documentation enhancements, duplicate. So these are the labels, right? And then the ones with no labels. And as you can see, we have bug priority 1. We have these number of labels for priority 1, these number of labels for priority 2. Right, so that is how it works basically. You can also say by size, right? So task by size, small, medium, right? And then by status as well, right? Yeah, and I can show you that it works with all the other charts as well, and it looks cool. Some of the charts looks actually nice. Alright, so we're also going to learn how to create this. It is an interesting feature as well. I mean, all the features are interesting, isn't it? Yeah, we have a long way to go because there are a lot to do. If we go to the profile of this user, as you can see, because this user basically logged in with email and password and uploaded their own profile, they can basically update it here. Right, so if you log in with Google or GitHub, it's going to load your Google or GitHub profile picture. But if you create an account with email and password, then you have the option to upload your own profile picture, right? So for example, I can click on this. For example, I can update it with this one, and as you can see, it changes up here as well, right? So yeah, you can update your profile. All right, that's enough. It's been a long demo. Let's actually get into it. All right, so what are we going to learn? All right, so first of all, we're going to learn about database management. We are going to learn about authentication flow, right? So the sign in, login, logout, reset password, route protection, email and social auth as well. We are going to learn about user invitations. We're going to learn about email service integration. We are going to learn about role-based access management, activities timeline, customized rich text editor, right? So we're going to customize the rich text editor ourselves. We are going to also learn about the logic behind drag and drop on Kanban board, right? So how we can integrate Kanban in our project. We are also going to build the insights page, right? So we're going to learn how to build the charts, the different charts we have there, and then we're going to build the profile management as well. So there are a lot of things we are going to learn in this project, right? So let's talk about what we are actually going to use to build this project. Obviously, we are going to use Next.js and then React, right? So I mean, we're going to use the latest version of these frameworks. We are going to use Supabase as our database. We are going to use Supabase Auth, right, for our authentication. We are also going to use Shadcn and Tailwind for our component and styling. Now for the drag and drop, we are going to use DnD kit, right? So if you know about DnD kit, it's a modern drag and drop toolkit for React. So it's more like a modern version of React Beautiful DnD. Yeah, basically. So that's what we are going to use. For state management, we are going to use React Query. We are going to use Zustand. We are going to use Hook, that is use state hook. And we are going to use a little bit of context API as well, right? So we're going to see how we are going to be able to use all these tools together. Now for email, we are going to use Resend and React Email. So the Resend is going to be the email service we are going to use to send the emails. React Email works well with Resend. So we are going to use that to create our email templates. Now for charts, we're going to use Recharts. Right, we're going to use Recharts to build our charts. And for the rich text editor, we're going to use Tiptap. So we're going to customize Tiptap. We're going to build all the toolbars with our own icons and stuff like that. And we are also going to use React Hook Form and Zod for our forms and validations, or our form validations basically. And then a lot more. Yeah, so let's actually get into it and start coding. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a new Next.js application. As you can see, I have opened my terminal here. I'm going to open the Next.js documentation. Yeah, and here I can copy this command to create my new Next.js app. So let's go back to my terminal. I'm going to paste the command here and I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to go through the prompts that it is going to give me to create the project. Right, so with this project, I am going to call it projects v2. The project is done creating. I'm going to open it in VS Code. Yeah, so here it's using Next.js 15, React version 19. We are going to set up Shadcn as well. Tailwind is already set up for us here. So we have the import here as well. So we're going to set up Shadcn UI. Alright, so let's go back to the browser, and here we have the installation section where we can choose Next.js. We're going to use this command, right? So we can copy that command. There is a notice here that if you are using Next.js 15, see the Next.js 15 plus React 19 guide. So I'm going to click on it. You can change the versions like this. You can do npm install again. I think you can still use React version 18 if you feel like you're having issues. Yeah, it's still going to work the same way. To use Recharts with React 19, you would need to override the React.s dependency. When I was building the project initially, I had issues with Recharts not displaying, and it was because I was using React version 19 basically. So I just copied this. You have to put it in package.json. I just copied this one, and then I'll go back to, I am going to put it here. Yeah, so make sure to put this here. I have to make the version the same as the React version I have here. Oh, okay, yeah, so you can just remove this one. I have to copy the Shadcn command, so let's go back. I'll copy this one, and I'm going to open the terminal. Yeah, so you would notice that we have this. We have component.json. It was created by Shadcn. And what do we have again? Yeah, I think we have this as well. If we go back to Shadcn, you can see you can start adding components to your project. Right, so you can just say npx Shadcn latest add. So for example, if you want to use the button, you just add the button component like this, right? So all the components are down here. And so I'm going to install the components I will need, and then when I come back, I'll show you all the components I installed. So I've installed all the Shadcn UI components that we are going to be using. Right, so if I go to components UI folder, that's where all the components are being installed. You'd see all the components I am using here. And if you look at package.json, you'd see that I have installed a few other packages as well, like Zustand, Zod. I have installed React Hook Form. Recharts was installed as part of the Shadcn UI components installation. I have also installed Fullstack, React Query, and then the dev tools. Yeah, so you can go ahead and install these packages. Let me also show you how my global CSS looks like. So during the installation, I added some of these. They were just in the documentation. When you check the Shadcn documentation, or like whilst you are installing them, it will tell you the, for example, the chart. It will tell you the CSS variables that you need to add to the global CSS. So these ones, and these ones for the school. And you can see that these styles are separate for light and then dark themes as well. Let's actually set up React Query as well. So I'll open up, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call it app. provider .tsx, so that this is going to be the wrapper provider for all the stuff I'm going to set up, like React query and all those stuff, because they are supposed to be in a client component. So I have to mark this one a client component, and then I'll be able to use it in the layout, which is a server component. All right, so basically I'm using the query client provider, and I'm passing the client, which is this client that I created here. All right, basically that's it. Here, because we're going to use it as a wrapper provider, we have to make sure we are passing children here. All right, and then the type, and this is where I am going to pass the children. All right, so let me just remove this and then put it there. All right, so I'm going to save it. Now I am also going to use the React query dev tools so that I'll be able to debug some of the stuff I am working on. All right, so I'm going to use the dev tools. All right, and the only prop I am going to pass is initial is open. I'm going to set it to false so that it will not be open by default. Now whilst I am here, let me also set up the toaster component that I am going to use. Toaster component like this here, so that it will be available. So as you can see, it's imported from component UI toaster. The final thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to set up my team provider as well, right, so that I can wrap it around all the children to be able to have the light and dark theme. It's a very straightforward setup with Shadcn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a component here, and I'm going to call it team provider.tsx. This is what we need to do. So we've already installed the Next themes. If you've not done that, you can do that. So we just import team provider here, and we are calling it Next Teams Provider because of the name we want to use here. So these are some of the attributes we pass. Attributes: default theme, system, enable system. You can find these under Shadcn Next.js documentation. Let me actually show you. So here you can see the Next.js dark mode here. Alright, so you just have to install this, and you just have to set it up in a provider like this. Right, so we import the team provider as this, and then these are all the props you are going to be passing. Right, so exactly like what we are doing. All right, so it means that inside our app provider, we are going to use the team provider here as well. Yeah, nice. Okay, so now the only thing I have to do is open layouts.tsx. First of all, I have to make sure I add use clients here. All right, and then when I go to layouts.tsx, this is the initial setup. Okay, so for now I'll keep it like this for now with these fonts. I'll change it if I don't like the look. But here I'm going to change the title to projects, and I am going to say project management app. Here instead of this, I'm going to use this utility function that Shadcn created for me. Right, so it uses Tailwind merge to merge all our Tailwind classes. So I will import it from libutils. Alright, so I can show you. So you can see it merges all our Tailwind classes. So here I am going to put these ones here, add a comma, and it should look fine. All right, so here I am going to use the app provider here. So that should be it. All right, so let's just make sure we run our app to make sure everything is okay. We don't have any errors. I'm going to do npm run dev, and yeah, the app is running. It's running fine, I think. Yeah, there is an arrow here which says, oh, hydration. Yeah, this is basically because of some extensions that I have. So you're going to be seeing this hydration error a lot. Let's not worry about that. But yeah, the most important thing is the app is running fine. Components. So let's clean up the file and then we can create some components. Yeah, we should see hello. Nice. So I'm going to start by adding my header and theme toggle components. So let me close everything out. So here I'm going to create a file, header.tsx. I'm also going to create another one called theme toggle.tsx. Right. And they are very simple components. I'm going to add them and then I'll show you. So this is my header component, fixed top. With full is the index 50, so I just want it to be fixed at the top, and I'm adding some backdrop filter so that blur effect to the header background. This is the title. I'm using the theme toggle here. So if you go to that component here, I am using use theme from Next.js. I've already added a provider. We can use the use theme hook here, and you can see I am using it in a client component because it's a hook. So I have this button here which says toggle theme. That's the label, right? And I have some icons from blue side. I'm using the sun for light and the moon for dark theme. So here I'm using the drop down menu from Shadcn, and basically I have these light, dark, and then system. And then when you click on them, it sets the theme to light, dark, and then system. So basically using the set theme here. The only thing we have to do is to go to layout, and then we can use the header here. So we want the header to appear on all the pages. Here actually we have to go into our app provider here, and here is where we're going to use it. So we want the header to appear on all our pages, so we would use it on top of our children. So here we're going to say header, and I'm going to put a wrapper div here because I don't want the other components to just hide under the header because I'm doing fixed top. So I want to give it a wrapper so that my components doesn't hide under the header, and that is basically all. We can close it. All right, so as you can see, we have the theme toggle here. That's the name of the project. I can say light, and as you can see, it switches to light. So the theme setup is as simple as that because we are using next themes. And when I do system, so if I go light and I do system, that works as well. And yeah, you can see the React query icon here as well. When I click on it, like you see the DevTools window open, and we set that up as well. So we will be needing this one a bit later. This title here is very close to the edge. Let me open the original application so that we compare as we build. You can see that this one is here. It's in the middle, yeah, kind of. And that's because we are using a class. We are using this container class here for our header, and we need to set this up as well. So yeah, with that, the best place to add is here. So I'm gonna add this here, and it is going to make sure that whenever the screens are more than 2 XL, it is going to set the maximum width to this value. Let's save this one, and then let's go back to our app and check. And as you can see, everything is looking good now. All right, so let's complete the header with the user menu here. This user menu, I have added the content of the user menu, so I'm using a drop down, have a drop down trigger, name, and then email. And here where you view your profile, which is going to route to /profile. This is going to go to /projects. Here it's going to go to /new project. These are all pages that we are going to be creating. And yeah, so I also have the logout button here. I'm using the logout icon from blue side, and I have a handle sign out function here, which doesn't do anything at the moment. It's just doing console.log. Right, so yeah, that's everything I have in this component. Now I have imported the component here, right? So inside my header, I have the user menu component. I have added this div where I do flex items center. So if we check, as you can see, I have the user menu here. If I click on it, I have the menu, the drop down menu here as well. We are going to build the landing page. Right, so we're going to go through the landing page quickly so that we can focus on some more important stuff. I'm going to create the landing page in the root of the app folder, not in components. Right, so here, as you can see, I have these features here. These ones, I add them as a list, and I am using this resolved theme from use theme here, that is from Next Themes, and I am switching between these images. So using the resolved theme, so I have a light version of the image and then a dark version of the image as well. So if it is dark, I show the dark image. If it is light, I show the light image. You'd see that inside public here, I have these two images here, right? So projects dark, projects light. Right? So screenshots of the projects that I took. The rest are just styling, right? So I'm adding some fade effects at the bottom. So if I show you the finished up again, as you can see, so you see the bottom here looks like it's faded a little bit. Right, so that is what the styles here are doing. So you can see things like BG gradients, right, from, and then the two background here, and then these as well. And then I also have like a gradient effect for the background. Yeah, there's a small gradient for the background as well. You can just have a look at the code, and then if you want, you can copy and paste the same thing, or you can apply your own styles so that we don't spend a lot of time on styling. Yeah, so here you'd see that I've added comments. So if you are looking at the source code, it should be easier for you to locate which content is. We have to use the landing in here. All right, so I'm gonna say landing. Yeah, okay, so, and then I'm gonna save it. And yeah, there you go. So as you can see, we have the image. Right now, if I switch to light theme like this, yeah, so you can see it changes the image to the light version. So you can then replace this with your own image, and let's go back to dark. We get a dark version. You notice that if I scroll up, as you can see, this is the glass effect, the blur effect I was talking about with the header. That is everything about the landing page. I think we're going to come back here once we set up our authentication, so that yeah, here we are going to, once the user signs in, we will show the user a different button. For now, we will just put these here and then this as well. So before we bring in Supabase, I'm going to add 3 pages for my authentication. So those are going to be my authentication pages. That is the sign up, login, and then reset password pages. I'm going to create those pages, and then I would set up Supabase. I just did that, and as you can see, I have my login page. Right, so let me close all the other pages. So I have my login page here. As you can see, I have the folder and then the page, and I have the components as a form as part of the files in the folder here. So if you look at the login form, it's just using a card here, the title here, which says login, welcome back. And then I have a link here which takes you to the create account page. That is a sign up page. All right, so if you're on the login page and you don't have an account, you can go to the create accounts page. But apart from that, there is the input for email, and then there is the input for password. That's the input for password. Down here, you'd see the button which says sign in. Now inside the footer, I am also using the OAuth sign in. So I created this as a separate component, and here it uses the GitHub and then the Google buttons. So they are coming from icons here. The icons I'm using some SVG icons. So I just put them inside this icons component here. So this is for GitHub, Google, and then number, which I'm using somewhere else as well. So those are the icons, and I'm using them here basically with the labels, right? And here, so this is the buttons, and this is the actual component, that is the OAuth sign in here. All right, so you get all continue with. I'm using suspense, but then this is where I am using a component. All right, so later we are going to be using usage params, and usage params requires that we use a suspense. That's why we have the fallback as the same button, but then when everything loads, we render the actual OAuth buttons. Yeah, so we're gonna come back to this. This is just a template. So it's basically the same thing for forgot password, create accounts. Alright, so it's just the same form, just that this one we have email, password, and then confirm password. But apart from that, we also have the OAuth sign in. Alright, and then for forgotten password, yeah, we have the email. Right, so you enter your email and then you click on the button. We send you a password reset link, and then it will take you to the reset page as well. I'll add that later. So these are the 3 pages we are going to be using. Right, so right now if we go to slash, let's actually go back here. Right, so if we go to slash login using this button here, it's going to take us to the login page, and yeah, there you go. So we have login. Right. Now we want this to be in the middle, just like the finished app. Alright, so for the finished app, it is in the middle actually. Yeah, so as you can see, this one is in the middle. So let me just fix it. Let me check why it is not in the middle yet. Let's go to login page. Yeah, I think I know the reason why. So I'm using this class here, this h-135. It's a custom CSS. So I'm going to add this to my CSS. So we go to global CSS, and here we are going to add that as a utility. So we do at layer utilities, and here I'm using these 3 classes. So this is the one we need for that one. Yeah, because we have flex items, and then just items center, justify center. And when we go back, yeah, as you can see, it's in the middle now. And so we can go to the create account page as well, and that is also looking good. Now let's go back, let's check the forgot password page as well. Yeah, that's also in the middle. So yeah, all the 3 pages are looking okay. So let's go to supabase.com. Yeah, and then once you have an account, you log in, you can go to your dashboard here, and you can create a new project. I'm going to be using this same project that I used for the previous one. I would show you everything I have to show you about it. But once you have your project created, you can go to the connect button here. Right, so you can click on it. It's going to open this modal here. All right, so here you can go to app framework, and you can see that Next.js is selected here, but you can choose whichever framework you are using. In our case, it is Next.js. So we are using app router, and we are using Supabase.js. You have to make sure you set up your environment variables, right? So env.local, and I'm going to copy this. Don't use my keys because I am going to pause the project as soon as I am done. I'm going to create a file env.local. So yeah, .env.local. I'm gonna have to paste it here. All right, so once that is done, I have to now create these 3 files, right? So so in the details folder, I can create Supabase. I have it server.ts, which will have this content. I'd also have clients.ts, and then I would also have the middleware, right? So these are the 3 files I'm going to be creating, and I'll just copy and paste the contents from here. So I'm going to create the folder details. I have to also make sure I install the Supabase packages. So I'm going to install them here. That's so the first one is Supabase.js, and then the second one is Supabase SSR. So these 2 packages, you have to install them. Alright, so those are done installing. I'm going to add the 3 files I need. So that is the first one. Now this is the one I modified, which I'm going to walk you through, but the server one, it's also like this, simple as that. There is one more file that I need to add. Let me add that as well, not inside the folder but in the root here. I have to add this middleware file here. You can see it's using update session, which is basically coming from the middleware file we added under utils Supabase. I'm going to show you how I know I have to add this Supabase docs. And here, now there is a notice here which says Auth helpers are now deprecated. So previously we used to use Auth helpers. Right now we are using Supabase SSR, and that's what we installed. So that's the reason why we have to install this one. If we go to the guide here, as you can see, we have to install Supabase JS and Supabase SSR. So that is the command here, and then we've already added our environment variables. Now when we go here, you'd see that we have the client and server. Yeah, we've added that. We have the middleware, right? This one. So this is the one I just copied and then added. And apart from that, we also have this one that we've actually added. If you want to find it, just go to Supabase docs, or just type Supabase Next.js Auth, and then you're going to get a link which is going to lead you here. So let's go back. Now inside this file, you can see that there are some parts that I don't require authentication to visit, right? I don't have to be authenticated to visit them. And these parts are what I'm calling public parts. So for example, the homepage, I don't have to be authenticated before I visit the homepage. Login page, create account page, for got password page as well. And there is Auth callback, and then reset password, and then this part, Auth error, and then also the public profile page. Right, so these are all pages that I don't have to be authenticated, or I don't have to log in before I can access. So for example, this one, you can view people's public profile even if you've not logged in. Once you have the URL to view the profile, you can view it. I have them as public parts. And when you come here we are doing some checks here, right? Now the first thing we are doing here, as you can see, we are doing supabase.auth.get session. We are checking if a user is logged in. We are doing a check to see if the user is coming from a different page, right? So for example, let's say you are coming from the profiles page, or you're coming from the projects page. So you go to /login or create an account. We want to be able to make sure that we redirect you back to the previous page you came from after you've logged in or created an account. We are going to be passing the search params as next. So let's say I try to go to the project page, but I'm not logged in. It redirects me to login. Then I am going to capture the project page as the next URL, right? So which means that after I log in, it is going to redirect me back to the page I wanted to visit, which is the projects page. So that is what this check here is doing. So it checks if you are visiting the login or the create account page. Then it's going to capture the next search params, which is going to be a part to the previous page. And then once I finish logging in, then it's going to basically take me to that page I wanted to visit. Now here I am checking if the part I'm visiting is included in the public parts I have up here. So down here you'd see that I'll check if user is not logged in and the page I am visiting is not a public part, then it is going to redirect me to login. Here there is another check to check if maybe the user is already logged in, but then they are trying to visit the login page or the create accounts page. It's not going to allow them. It's just going to redirect them back to the next part, right, which is the page they came from. So if you are logged in, I mean, you don't have to be able to log in again or see the login page because you're already logged in, right? So that is what all these checks are doing. If you have any public parts that you want users to be able to visit without logging in, I can just include them here. Yeah, so we are going to close this one and then we are going to start using them. All right, so now you'd realize that there are some pages, there are some parts that we added here that we don't actually have yet. Alright, so Auth callback. Now this one is important, we need it. Also we have to add the reset password page as well. And then we are also going to add this page, which is going to, when there is an authentication error, it's going to take us to this page. So these 3 pages, I am going to create them as well. All right, so I just added those here. So inside my Auth folder here, there is the callback, which dash the exchange code for session. You find that in the documentation. There is this reset password, similar to the others, and this is the Auth error page. Right, so when there is an error, it just shows you a page saying authentication error. There was a problem with the authentication process. So an expired or invalid link, cancelled OAuth process, or a technical issue, and gives you some buttons to return to the home page or to the login screen. Let's actually start implementing the authentication. Right, this is how I'm going to start organizing my code. Right, so here under utils, I'm going to create a file called auth.ts. This is where I'm going to have all the code related to authentication. So what I am going to do is I'm going to say constant auth, and I'm going to make it an object. I'm going to do export here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have like functions, right? So I'm going to say login, right, which is going to be an async function, right? So I'm going to have the other one, right? So I'm gonna have one for logout as well. Let me just accept that. The first one, let me just do sign up. And then I am going to have one for sign in with OAuth. Right, so here, so I'm going to add the implementations inside here, right? So I'll just leave these placeholders here, and then whenever I want to implement one, I'll just come and add the implementation inside here. So let's actually start from sign up, right? Because you need to create an account before you can log in. So let's actually start from sign up. Now, when someone is signing up, we would need their email, right, which is a string, and then we would also need their password. So I'm going to add some comments here. So we are going to check if the user already exists. So if the user already exists, what are we going to do? So if exists, if the user exists, we're going to throw an error that the user exists, right? So throw an error, user already exists. If not, then we would sign up user. Now, how are we going to check if the user already exists? Now, Supabase, we are also going to create a separate table for our users. Even though we have the authentication table, which is automatically there for us once we sign a user up, they are going to be saved into the auth table. But then we also want to save other user details separately that will not be captured in our authentication table. And so we're going to create a separate user table where we would capture their user details, like their profile details and all that. We would save user details as well. Yeah, I run into an issue where Supabase wasn't actually throwing an error when the user is already registered. It will just log the user in, or even when you are signing up, it will just log you in, right? Provided you enter the correct password. To avoid that issue completely, I would have that separate table, and then I'll store the user details there. So once a user decides to sign up, I'll check that table to see if their email is there. So it means that we have to create the users table in our Supabase. And because I am already using the database I created, I'm going to use that. All right, so let me show you the users table that I have. All right, so this is my Supabase. You can see that I have all these tables that we're going to go through. This is the users table that I have created. As you can see, we have the ID created at, email, name, description, avatar. We have updated at, we have links. We also have the provider. Yeah, that's the last column, right? So you can see the links. It's a JSON array, right? So if I do edit here, that type is JSON. If you want to make it an array, if you're creating a new table, for example, let's say if you're creating a new table and you add the column, this is where you can find it, right? So the settings button here, you can define it as an array. So let's discard this one. So these are the columns we're going to have in our users table. Now when I go to, you find the authentication section here, and then when you click on it, it is going to show you the users that you are going to have on the platform. Right, so we would see once we have some users in here. All right, so we are back here. How are we going to check that the users already exist? So for that one, we're going to do a wait Supabase, and we have to also make sure we are getting our Supabase instance here. So we do constant Supabase, which is going to be create client, right? And I'm porting it from Supabase client. This is basically going to select a user from our users table where the email is equal to this email that we pass here, and we can get a data. We can also get an error if there is an error. So existing user, and then we're going to check, right? So if so this error we are going to throw. In fact, we're going to catch the error and show a toast to the user wherever we're going to use this function. So for now, it's okay to throw the error here. Now here, instead of single, let's do maybe single, right? And the reason why I did it this way is, now when there is no user, Supabase is going to return no rows, and it's going to throw an error. Alright, so we just want to put maybe single to tell Supabase that you can get a user, you can return a user, or the user might be undefined. Here we're going to say if error. Alright, so if there is an error, it's just going to throw the error. We're going to catch it. Now if there isn't an existing user, we did not get an error, it means that we will be able to sign up. And we have to pass email and password, so we have to pass it as an object, email and then password. And we would also have to pass in options like this, and we are going to pass email redirect to. So when the sign up is successful, we are just going to authenticate the user, and then we are going to sign them in, all right, by redirecting them to this callback page, which is going to get a code that is going to be given to the user. So Auth callback here, right? So the code is what we're going to capture here, and then we are going to exchange code for the session and actually create a session for the user. Right, so this is where we have to redirect them to, and that is this route here. We will say const. Now if we get a data from the sign up, it means that the sign up is successful. Or if you get an error, so here, because we have an error here already, let's actually rename this to sign up error. I just completed these, right? And I'm going to go through every single one of them with you just to avoid having to type out everything. And I've also added another utility file here which contains a bunch of code as well. Don't worry, we're going to go through that as well. Let me actually open it. Right, so here you can see that I just did this other check to check that there is actually a user coming. Let me fix this as well. So error. If everything goes well, this is where we are going to capture the user details, right, by saving it in our users table. So I need to import this from users, that is from this users utility file, and I am calling capture user details. I'm calling data.user. Now you can see that I have the same pattern that I have here. I have an object, but this time I am not using the key value pairs. I'm just passing the functions here. That is because in some of the functions I am assessing the functions within this object. So I'm going to be using the this keyword. If you are familiar with how the this keyword works in JavaScript objects, you'd understand what I'm talking about here. If you're not, don't worry, you can just read about it. But basically, I have this object, I have these functions, right? And I can just use the this keyword to access any of these child functions of this object because they are all in the same object. This function here will check if there is a user. So here I want to say maybe single again. This one is what is creating the user. So we do create user. So from user, and then we do insert. We pass the user here, and then we insert the user. We select the user, and then because this one we are inserting, we know definitely there's going to be a user, so we don't have to do maybe single here, unless there is an error, which is going to throw this error, right? So it won't select. So this one is fine. So this is the function for creating the user, right? And then it will return the user basically. So we get the user, and then we create this one, creates the user. So this one, capture user details, it's doing two things, right? It's first check if a user already exists, which we did in the auth file. So if we are capturing, we are checking it here again. So the reason why we are checking it here again is this one is for only signups, right? This here is for only sign up. Now for OAuth signups, we are not going to call these. I mean, that one signs you up automatically. So we're going to use the capture details in other parts of the code where if the user details are not captured already and the user is signed in, then we would capture the details. So that section we have to also do the check. All right, so that's the reason why we are doing the check here again. We are checking against the email, but here we are using the ID, which is fine, right? So if the user exists, then we would return the user. We will not capture the details again. But if the user does not exist, then we are going to extract the provider because we need it. We need to save it in our table. Right, so we are going to get it from the user, and then the property we're going to get it from is the app metadata dot provider. I mean, I'm going to show you in the authentication section on Supabase very shortly. We are creating a new user, so we do the ID, email, we pass the name, right? So the name too, we get it from user metadata, the full name. Otherwise, we will get the first part of their email before the @ and then we would use it as their name. And then for the avatar, we would get it from the avatar URL. Otherwise, we will just replace it with empty string because there is no avatar. So this is the default user details it is going to capture. Now we call this create user. As you can see, we are using this here again. So we create the user details. We call this function, and then we pass this user details. Right, so I'm going to actually move this. Not only this, I'm going to move these two. Let me just create a file in the root. I'm going to call it types.d.ts, and I'm going to paste it here. Yeah, here I don't need to import it. It's going to be available for me automatically. As you can see, the file still knows about them. Right, so if I overwrite, as you can see, I'm going to add two more functions here to update and delete user. we would use that later. So let me add those functions here as well. Yeah, actually the functions are update user and then update user profile. All right, so I just removed the delete user because I realized we are not using it in any part of the code yet. All right, so here from users updates where id is equal to this, and here because we are updating the user profile, we want to also update the avatar URL of the metadata, right? So that is what we are doing. We do metadata.avatar URL, right? So metadata is equal to updates.avatar, and here we do supabase.auth.update user. We pass the metadata here. Let's actually check that our login, our sign up is working. So we will go to the sign up form, that is create account, and then here we are going to use it, right? So we check if password is not equal to confirm password, so they are not the same. Let me import this from React, and then let me import this toast. Yeah, we're just going to show toast to the user and say passwords do not match. Otherwise, here we can actually do const message is equal to get alt error, and I'm going to pass the error here. And you would notice that we don't have this function yet, get alt error, and it is also a way of organizing my files, right? So I created this utility function as well, and this captures all the alt errors that I faced. I just put it in one file, and then I return a helpful error message based on the error. So I am going to create this file. All right, so you can see that I have added a function called get alt error here. We do a lot of if check, right? So these are some of the error codes that we check. Email in use, this email is already registered. So now we also have this one. Yeah, I think it's similar to the top one. Right, so another one is invalid login credentials when the user credentials are invalid. And then here, email not confirmed with invalid email error message that includes password, weak password 1. We also have here another invalid email. We have email in use, and then there is a default message here. So a bunch of if checks to check like different error messages and error codes to return helpful error messages. Whenever I encounter any authentication error whilst I am testing, I just capture them here. Yeah, these are just some common errors that I came across that I have captured here so that I can return my own manual error message that I can show in a toast. So here I am going to now import it. I'll pass the error. So whatever error it is going to return. If the error is captured, it's going to return the message. If not, it is going to return a default error message anyways. Right, so here I need to get it as an object. I want to also show like a loading spinner whenever we are creating the account. All right, so I'm going to say nice. And when I come down here, you'd see that I have this spinner icon that I have commented out. Right, so here I'm going to say is loading and show this. So let me import icons. Yeah, we can begin to test this out. Alright, so let's just make sure everything is okay. Alright, so for the testing, I'm going to be using a temporal email. So let's go to create accounts page, and I'm going to be using temp email here. So I get a temporal email, I'll copy. So I'm going to put the email here, and then I'm going to add a password. I'm going to say test123, test123. Let's first of all say the password do not match. We get an error which says passwords do not match down here. Okay, now we enter the correct password, and then we click on it. We see the loading spinner here. It says success. Right, so check your email to verify your account. Nice. And you see that we get redirected to the login page as well. So let's check the email, and nice, so we get this email here. So when we open, yeah, so projects, and we can click on this to confirm our email. Now let's also check Supabase to see if the user has been created. So I had to make sure I update the URL to the localhost version here. I come back to users. Now these are the previous users I was having, so this is the new user here. Let's actually delete this user and sign up again, so that actually let's delete. So we have just these two users here, and we are going to go back, and then we would copy this email address again, and let's go create an account again. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to say test123, test123. I'm going to create the account, and it is successful. So we go back here. Let's go back to our email list. So we see that we have a new email here. So let's open that one, and then we can confirm now. So when we check our Supabase users, let's actually refresh and see. Yeah, we have that user. The user is not verified yet, as you can see. So we will go back here, and then we are going to click on confirm email. It redirects us to /project. So we don't have the page yet, that's why we are getting 404, but it's a sign that the user has been verified, and we are redirecting them to this page, right? So it means the verification actually worked. Nice. So let me just take them to the home page. We are here at the home page. When we check here now and it refreshes, yeah, we should see that last signed in is right now. Be able to sign users up. Let's actually also check that the user has been captured in our users table. So we will go to table editor here, and then we're going to go to users, and yeah, as you can see, it has been captured here as well. Right, so you can see this is the user email. Because we don't have a name for the user yet, we just captured their this first part as their name. Description is empty, there is no avatar yet, but then as you can see, the provider is email. Now let's go to our landing page, and then check if we are logged in. Show the user a different button instead of these buttons here, because we already logged in. And then also we would display the user's details here, their email and their name. Nice. And here I'm going to do set user. All right, so session.user, if there is session.user, I'm setting it to the user, otherwise it's just going to be null. I'm going to listen to the Auth state changes, right? so that whenever a user logs out, I would also set the user to null. Right, so here I have a function on the auth called onAuth state change. It's actually a subscription. So here it's gonna be, let me just call it, we are going to get event, and then we're also going to get session, and we are going to make sure we clean it up by unsubscribing. Remove this one and return it dot unsubscribe. Yeah, let's pass Supabase out here. So I need to import this. Let's import use it as well. Alright, so this is going to make sure that if there is an event or there is a change in our auth state, it's going to capture the details as well. Alright, if there hasn't been any event here, I mean, this is still going to take care of the user, getting the user from the session. Alright, so yeah, we will add these two here, and then we are making sure that we unsubscribe so that we clean it up. Right, we are going to use this user here. I'm going to use the use done here. Yeah, so this is where we have our two buttons. Right, so if there is a user, show the view projects button. We are going to create this page shortly, and if not, show these buttons. Right, so yeah, it's going to switch based on whether there is a user or there is no user. I'm going to add some loading state here as well. I'm going to set it to true by default, and then whenever this one finishes checking and setting the user, it will set it to false. And I'm going to use the is loading down here, or you can add a loading spinner here. For now, I won't show anything. So let's go to the home page and check. Yeah, so as you can see, we have the view projects button, right? Because the user is logged in and there is a session. So we see the view projects button instead of the sign in, sign up. Alright, so now let's do the same thing for this user menu here. Let's do the same check. We're only going to show the user menu if there is a user. Right, so here we're going to say user. Alright, otherwise we are going to show something else. Alright, so we're going to show the same sign in and get started buttons if there is no user. The header component is used on all the pages, but we don't want to show these buttons on every page. Say, let me go up here, and let's say constant is landing, which is going to basically check that maybe the path name is equal to like slash, that is a home page. Right, so path name is equal to no dot slash like this, and with path name I'm going to make sure I get it from use path name, import from next navigation. We want to check if the path name is slash, it means we are on the home page, and that is the only time we are going to show these buttons, right? But we can see it because we are logged in, right? So we're going to see the user menu. We want to pass the actual details, user details, to the user menu. Alright, so I just updated these. Right, so I am getting the user metadata avatar URL if there is one, and I'm using this image component from next image. I could have used the avatar component, but here I wanted to use the image. And if not, it's just going to show this icon, the user icon, and the user avatar from the user metadata, because we're going to whenever we upload an avatar, we're going to save it there. Whenever a user signs in with an OAuth, the avatar email, the avatar URL is going to be there as well. So we can get it from here, and then we can also get their email as the auth, right? So down here, as you can see, we are getting their full name. If not, we are getting their email, and then we put their email here as well, right? We get user email. So once we save it, let's save the header as well, and let's go back to, let's wait for this to refresh and check the user who is logged in. So we click on it, and there you go, right? So we see the user here. This is supposed to be their name, but they don't have any name yet. So we show their email as well, and then we still show their email down here. Now we are going to implement the logout, and then we would also implement the login. So before we implement the login, we need to be able to log the user out, and then we can implement the login as well. So let's click here, and then let's actually sign up. It redirects us to the login page. Let's go here, and as you can see, when we come here, we see the get started and sign in buttons. We see the same thing here as well. So let's look at that as well. Now I'm using Supabase.auth.sign in with password, right? So this is the function we have to call, and I have to pass email and password. So email and password going to come from here. Yeah, let's go ahead and test the login. So what is the user email? So let me get the email and then paste it here. Test 1 2 2. All right, so I'm just entering the wrong password there just to confirm. I get an error, which means the password is wrong. So test 1 2 3. Let me enter the correct password and try and log in. And it looks like it is successful. Nice. So we are logged in. So we are redirected to /projects. Nice. So let's try and go home. We're able to create an account. We're able to log in. We are able to log out. So what if the user forgets their password? Let's implement the forget password flow as well. So let me sign out, and then let me try and log in here. So let's say I've forgotten my password and I want to reset my password. So I should be able to reset my password. So let's implement this page. So I'll go back here, and I'm going to close some of these. Just close this. Alright, so here you'd see that I have added this reset password request function here, and I've also added this reset password function here, right? So this is the request, and this is where we are going to reset the user's password. Actually, now we have to do a couple of things if users request to reset their password, right? So first of all, we have to check if the user exists in our table, right? So if the user is actually a registered user. Now when we check, we also have to check that they are using email provider. Right, so this is the reason why we have to save the provider in our table as well, because if they are logged in with GitHub or Google, then they can't reset their password with our form. They have to reset their password through GitHub or Google. So we would only allow users who registered with email and password to be able to register to be able to reset their password. So here we check from the users table. Right, so we are selecting the ID and provider, where the email is equal to the email the user provides. So when they enter their email here, we're going to check the table with their email. We get the ID and then the provider of that user. Right, so if the user is not there, we're going to throw an error, right? Or if we get this code as well, we're going to get throw an error. So this error means that no rows are returned, right? That's why sometimes I use the maybe single. I can use maybe single here, or if I want to use a single, I can just check for this code and see if I'm getting this, and then I can return an error. If the user is found, now we are going to check that the provider is actually email. If there isn't any issues, then we are going to send them the password reset link, and we are going to redirect them to this auth.reset password when they click on the link. So here we're going to do supabase.auth.reset password for email. We pass the email and then we pass the redirect to as the reset link, right? So we're going to do location.origin, which is the current origin, and then we are going to redirect them to auth and then reset password. Right, so that is a page we created here. Right, so auth and then reset password. So it's going to show them the form to enter their re-enter their password or reset their password. Nice. And this reset password is what we're going to use here. All right, so let's first of all let's go to forgot password here, and then let's use that function. Yeah, and again, just to save time, I have filled out the function here. Alright, so as you can see, I am calling reset password request, showing a toast which says check your email, and I pass the message. I'm redirecting to login to show the spinner if it is loading. Right. So yeah, it's very similar to what we've been doing. So I am going to inside reset password 2. I'm going to make sure I use this reset password here to actually update the user's password, right? So here, as you can see, this is where we are updating the user's password. So this is going to be the new password that the user is going to enter, and then we would update the user's password with auth.update. We are going to use that in this component. Yep, so I have added on handle submit as well here, and I am calling reset password. Right, so here I have the password and confirm password here, so I first check that it is the same, otherwise we would return passwords do not match. But when passwords match, we're going to pass the password to reset password, which is going to update the user's password with that. You can see I'm setting the value and then the unchanged down here as well, so everything is looking okay inside this file. So these are supposed to work as well, hopefully. So let's go to the page again. Let's actually open temp email. Yeah, we have the same email here, so we can test with that email. So let's paste this one. Let's click on send reset link. Check your email. If an account exists, a password reset link has been sent. So we come here and there you go. Right, so we see reset your password. We click on it and then we see the reset password link as well. So follow this link to reset password for your user. So I'm gonna click on it. It's redirecting me to the reset password here. Alright, so you can see it's actually redirects me to the reset password form. So I'm gonna enter a new password. So this time I'm going to say tests. So in order for me not to forget, I say test122. So test122, and I'm going to say reset and success. Your password has been reset, and it logs me in. As you can see, I am seeing these buttons here as well. When I open, I see my email. Nice. So our authentication flow is working. We're able to reset our password as well. So we're able to sign up, log in. We are able to log out. We're able to reset our password if we forget our password. So the only thing left is to implement our social auths. Right, so logging in with Google or GitHub. That is the next thing we are going to be doing. Also, I have to mention this before we continue. Now you notice that for all the emails that we send, it is coming from this, right? So team@mrshadrak.com. I'm going to show you because I'm using Resend to set this up. So you can see that under my emails here, all the emails we are sending are being recorded here. That's because the email I am sending to users are being sent by Resend as the provider instead of Supabase directly. All right, so if I go to domains, you'd see that I have my custom domain here. And if you want to add a new domain, you just have to click on this domain. And because I'm using the free version, I can only add one domain. Right, so you click on this and then you can add the domain. And you have to verify the domain wherever you purchase the domain from. You just have to add the records. It's not a difficult process. But yeah, you can add your custom domain here and then you can hook it up with Supabase. And it's even easier with Resend because when you go to settings and then you go to integration, like you can see that I have integrated this with Supabase already. So if I go to integration here, you see that I have already integrated this with Supabase. All right. So it is very, very easy to set it up. So you can even do it directly from the Resend dashboard here. Right, so if you've not done it, you can just click on integration and then you'd see Supabase and you have to enter the project name. You have to select the domain. If you have the domain added, it's going to provide that for you to select, and it will basically pick your API key, right? And these are the details you have to provide. Some of these records are going to be filled out for you automatically, and then you just have to click on configure SMTP integration and it's going to do it for you. You would have to create an API key so that it will use that API key. So you can see that here I have Supabase integration here. I created some API keys down here as well for testing, but yeah, this is the one it is using. So you just have to create a new API key. If you want to do it directly from Supabase, you can go to project settings. So under project settings here, you're going to go to authentication, right? And then down here, yeah, so you see SMTP settings. Right, so here you are going to provide the details, right? So this is the sender email that you saw. So you can put anything you want here. Basically, it's going to work. And this is the sender name. You just have to make sure you copy the details and then you paste them here, right? Together with the password. And then you save it. You just have to make sure you configure a custom SMTP with your Supabase so that you don't have the rate limit issue, or you don't have issues with sending emails to users. We are going to implement the OAuth, that is social logins. All right, so with that one, we will come to authentication again. We will come to providers, and as you can see, I have email enabled. I also have GitHub and Google enabled. Right. The rest are disabled basically. So here you can check any, or you can enable any provider you want to enable in your project. In our case, we enabled GitHub and then Google, right? So here, the only thing you have to do is to provide a client ID, client secret. How do you get these information? So when you go to GitHub and you go to settings and you go to developer settings here, you should be able to see OAuth applications. This is the one I am using, projects. But you can create a new OAuth app, let's say test app. You can provide the home page URL, description, and then the authorization callback URL is what you are going to copy, this one, and then you put it here. Register the application. Alright, so once you register the application, you're going to see the client ID here. You just copy this one and then you're going to generate client secrets and then you come and put them here. Right. And you save it. So once you do that, you will do the same thing for you get a client ID, client secret, and then you also have to copy this and then put it there. So once you enable these, you would be able to sign in with GitHub and Google as well. So let's go back to VS Code here. So we will pass the provider, GitHub or Google, and then the next URL that is going to be redirected to after you log in. And then we pass that here. Here we're doing supabase.auth.sign in with OAuth, as you can see. So let's save it, and then we can close this one, and then here. So here is where we have the buttons, right? Alright, so just pass them here. Alright, so on click, it will just call this function. So this one is GitHub, so it will just pass GitHub here, and then this one of Google. So this is the reason why I am using the suspense. If I don't use the suspense here, it is going to throw an error anytime you try to build the application. So we say next URL. If there is a redirect URL provided, which we are going to capture from the props, but yeah, if not, we're going to get next, and then if not, we're going to just do a redirect to /projects. We're also going to add some props actually. Yeah, so we're basically calling sign in with OAuth, right? We are passing the provider, and then we're passing next URL. Since we have this set up here, we should be able to log in with our social auths. Let me log out again. So I'm going to sign in, try and sign in with Google, and click on continue. And yeah, you can see once I am authenticated, I am redirected to the projects page, which is not created yet. Nice. So our OAuth is also working. If you have any issues, just put it in the comments. I want us to work on the profile page, right, so that users would be able to update their profile. We would go to /profile. It's still not created yet, so let's go ahead and create that page. Let's collapse everything here, and then in app, we're going to create another folder, profile, and inside it, I'm going to create page.tsx. I am also going to add a dynamic route here. That is a public profile using the user's ID. And inside here, I am going to say page.tsx as well. Right, so you can go to /profile and then the ID of the profile. You'd be able to see like the public profile of a user. Public profile page. Let's close this one for now. And this is going to be the profile page. We should be able to see, yeah, the profile page not showing 404. So what we are going to do is here we are going to load the initial user profile. So the logged in user, we're going to load their details in here first of all. Right, so we have to set this as async. So here we are going to pass it to the form, right? So we're going to create the user profile form, and then we are going to pass the default user data to the form so that users can update their details. So here what we're going to do is let me just say profile form, and we are going to say initial data is going to be user data. So we need to make sure we create this profile form, and then we make it accept the prop, the initial data prop. So let's create the profile form. Profile form.tsx. And yeah, this is basically how I like to organize these files. right? So I like to keep components that are related to a page inside that page. So if the components are a lot, I'm going to create like a component, an inner component folder here, then put all the components relating to the page inside it. Okay, so I just added the profile form template for that, and then the profile photo uploader as well. So let me import the profile form. I'll walk you through. Let's save it. Now here, as you can see, I am also passing the initial data as the prop that this component is accepting. And here you can see I am using Zod to do some validations of the fields. So I have the schema here. So we have the name of the user, the email, the description, and then the links. So the name, email, these are all required. Now description is optional. You can decide to provide or not. And then links is an array of objects. So here Zod makes it very simple to do. You do z.array, z.object, and then the object will be a label and then the URL. So yeah, that is also optional, by the way. So this is how the schema looks like, right? And here you'd see that the URL is supposed to be a valid URL because I'm doing z.string.url. Right? So Zod is going to validate that this is a valid URL before it allows you to submit the form. Alright, so yeah, it is very simple, like doing the validation with Zod. Alright, and then here I am doing Zod Resolver, right? So if you've not installed this, you should go ahead and install it. Alright, so who form resolvers. And here is where I am passing the default values. Right? So from the initial data, I pass the email, name, and then description, as well as the links if we have links. If not, we just pass an empty array and then empty string here. Right, so this is going to make sure that it passes the default values that we get from the initial data to the form. And down here, use the use field array for the links. Right, so here the name is the links, and then we also pass the control as form.control, as you can see here. Right, so this is going to make sure that we are able to get the links array field, and then we're able to render it down there, which I am going to show you. Okay, so here I just have a button here, right, which says view public profile. We're saying if user data, then render that button. And down here we have a profile photo uploader. So that is the uploader component here that we are going to later implement it to be able to use this to upload a profile photo for users that logs in with email and password. Right, so only users that logs in with email and password, they would be able to update their profile photo. Right, so it's a very simple component for now, but we would implement this a bit later. It's a form. As you can see, we have the different fields like email, name, description, and then we also have the links. Right, so as you can see, we are getting it from fields. So we do fields.map, that is the array, this one. Right, and we make sure we render each one of them if we have multiple links. Right, so that is what this one is doing basically. As you can see, this is how it looks like. Remember, we logged in with Google for this user. Yeah, because they are logged in, and here, I mean, this is basically a project email, so it's not real email, so don't worry about it. The name, and then their email here, and then these are their links. Right, so we have them here, and then there is a button here which is missing some styles. We're going to fix that. Right, and that is a button to view public profile. We have the form displaying okay. That is yeah, this button. And yeah, by the way, as you can see, I am using some common styles here, right? So there are some styles that I'm going to be using throughout the application, so I just moved it into a constant. Right, so for example, yeah, you can see that I have some of these styles here, right? Secondary BTN styles, success BTN styles, primary BTN styles, delete btn styles and all these. Alright, so I will just be using these when I need them. Like I'll just be using the Tailwind styles. But I have it here, so why is it not applying the styles? Alright, so the button is just back by itself. I don't know why it wasn't showing initially, but for some reason it just the styles just applied by itself, and you can see this one is also changed. Everything is looking fine on this page. Now we just have to be able to update the profile, for example, and then also be able to upload a profile photo. Right, so let's actually implement those as well. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to update the user profile with the updated data if user changes their profile. So you remember we added a update profile utility function inside users. Alright, so on the utils, we go to users here, this one. So we have to pass the user ID and then the updates. Now you'd realize that we have this add URL button and then remove. Yeah, there's a button here which removes a URL field from the links. So it calls this remove. You can see this one calls the append, which are all coming from here, the site. So when you use the use array field, you get the append and then remove. So you would be able to append to the array, and then you would be able to remove from the array using the index of the array, right? So basically that's what we are doing down here. So when we click on it, we add an empty field, the label, and then the URL itself. When we click on remove, it removes that. All right. So let's say we are adding what? Let's say maybe websites. All right, and then I'd say Shadcn.com. So let's say https://mesh-shadrach.com. Oh, this is not colon. Let's just say I just say that something simple, and click on update. And yeah, profile updated successfully. Now if we refresh the page, let's just see that this is working. And yeah, as you can see, after I refresh, it is still there. Now you'd realize that this field is actually read only. You can't actually edit it. If I begin to type, it's not going to work. I made it read only. So you see your email, but you won't be able to update it because this is the email that you use to log in. Let's make the uploading of the profile work next. All right, so the first thing is to check if the user has a default profile photo already. In this case, they have, as you can see here. So we want to show the same profile photo here as well. And then we would also check if the user logged in with their email and password, or they just logged in with the social auth. And then we would enable or disable this button for them to upload. if they have profile photo already, we will just get that and then show it. So let me save it, and then let me make sure that here I am passing it to here. So we need to pass current photo URL, and we're gonna get it from the user data dot avatar. So the user profile is showing here. We need to also check that this user is not logged in with a social auth. So we have to check their provider, the provider they used to log in. So for the upload button, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if the provider that the user is using is equal to email. So otherwise, actually this is supposed to be, so if it is email, then we're going to show the upload button to them. If not, we are going to show a different badge basically, and we're going to render the user provider here, say via this. We can save this one, and here we have to pass the user provider, user data dot provider. Let's go here and test it, and there you go. Right, so because this user logged in with Google, we don't show the upload button, we say via Google, as you can see here. So they won't be able to basically upload or change their profile. But this one, that's actually logged in with a user that used email and password to log in. And yeah, as you can see, this user is logged in with email and password, so we can see this button, right? We can see their name here. So let's update the name. And we can update, and yeah, it's been updated. Nice. So now we need to be able to upload their profile picture, be able to update this one. We need to be able to upload their profile photo. So let's see. Now first of all, we're going to add a ref here. All right, so input ref, and then down here on the upload button here, we are going to add it to the onClick. All right, so we do input ref dot current dot click, and then also we would add the actual ref to this input element here, which is going to actually be used to upload a file. So we'll add the ref here. Now, so as you can see, this input is going to be responsible for uploading the file. Type is file, and then it accepts only images. All right, but we are hiding it. We don't want to show it. Let's just go into upload the image, and then we are going to get the image, and then we will just upload it to Supabase storage. All right, so on change, I'm going to pass handle file select here, which I'm going to create a function up here. I'm gonna have to pass an event to it, and I have to make this async as well. All right, and here I'm going to say e.target of file. It's going to be one file, so I'll get the index 0, which is that file, and then I'm going to say if there isn't any file, just return. We also want to check if file dot type starts with. So we're checking if it is not an image for some reason, then we are going to return as well. I also want to show the user toast and say that they should select an image file. If everything is fine, then we are going to do the actual upload, right? So here we're going to put try and catch. I'm going to say it's uploading to true, and here I'm going to say const file extension is equal to file dot name dot split with a dot. This is supposed to be in a string, like this. Alright, so I'm doing dot pop because I want to get the last item in the array when I do split, which is going to be the extension, because we just want to rename the file by giving it a unique ID. Nice. And file path. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get the Supabase client here. Right, so and then here I am going to do Supabase.storage. And so I do Supabase.storage, and then from bucket name, which we are going to provide, we do upload, and we have to provide the file path and then the file. If there is an error, just throw the error. If not, we want to get the URL, which we are going to get from here. Alright, so that's a full URL. Now we are going to provide this storage URL as well, and then the bucket's name here. Alright, so how do we get the bucket's name? So let's go to Supabase. Alright, so we go to Supabase, and then you go to storage here. Alright, so as you can see, I have a bucket here, which is called profile photos. When I click on it, you'd see that I have some images here. Those are the previous images I used. And so you can create a bucket, make a public bucket, right? You can check this one, and then give it a name, and then you can hit save. Now once you hit save, you just have to take note of the bucket's name. Mine is called profile photos. Right, so I'm going to use that bucket's name. So when I come up here, I can just say constant bucket's name is equal to profile underscore photos. Alright, so we can go back here. Now if I try to get the URL here for one of these images, and then I come back and come and paste it somewhere here. Let's paste it here. Yes, so you can see that the way the URL looks like is it goes all the way here, right, to the public, and then you have your bucket name, and then after that you'd have the file name, which is the unique ID we generated for, together with the extension. Right, we need to copy this part, and then we need to save it in our env. I'm going to add const storage URL, which is equal to process.env dot Supabase storage URL. Alright, so now we have the full URL here. Alright, so storage URL, bucket name, and then data.path. Nice. So what we need to do is to just call this on photo uploaded. We just need to pass the full URL to it. And then we will say full URL. Because this is optional, we just need to do this. And this is an async function as well, so let's do await. And then we're going to also show a notification, a toast, to just say that profile photo updated successfully. If there is an error, we are going to do likewise. If there is an error in any process, in any part of the process here, any step of the process here, and then we are also going to add finally to reset the loading state. Alright, let's just say any here. Alright, nice. So we can use that as uploading. also, since we are setting it here. And then on the button here, yeah, that's the upload button. We will just say disabled if it is uploading. And down here, we want to show the spinner when it is uploaded. All right, so yeah, so we can say nice. So let's come here, and then we need to pass the function here on photo uploaded. We're going to pass it as a sync function, and we know we are getting the URL, right? That is a full URL here, which is a string. Here I'm going to say set user data. Right, so let's spread the user data, and then we are going to update just the avatar. And before that, we have to update the users table with the avatar. Right, so first of all, let's just say if no user data return, and then I'm going to do await. All right, so users dot update profile here, and I have to pass the user ID and then the avatar URL as well. Nice. So we can now go ahead and test if everything is working, if we're able to upload a profile successfully. Alright, so I'm going to click on this, and it's going to open the file explorer here. Alright, so I am going to choose one of these images. Let's choose the React one. I am getting this error. It says type error failed to construct URL. And when I check the database, I see that the URL that was saved, as you can see here, says undefined. Let's check the reason why we are getting undefined. So it looks like for some reason this one we are not able to get the env. Right, so this part here looks fine, but this part here, which is coming from here, I was just debugging the reason why it's not working. As you can see, it's working now. The reason why it wasn't working is the fact that here, yes, I had to add the next public here. So that is the only change I made. And now it is able to upload and get a correct URL. Right, so let's actually try again. So let's upload a new profile. For example, let's upload the Supabase logo. And as you can see, it changes here and then it changes here as well. Right, so here where we do users.update profile, we are also updating the user metadata with the avatar URL, right? So you can see here. So we update the users data, we update the users table with the profile, the URL, and then we also update the metadata. If I go to Supabase and go to the authentication table and I select that user, I go to raw JSON, you'd see that. Let me actually refresh it. Yeah, you'd see that under the raw user metadata, now the avatar URL is filled. Nice. You can also see their full name here, same as the email, right? Nice. So we're able to update it here. So we get both the changes here and then here as well, which is nice. Our table users, yeah, this is the user, so we have the avatar here as well. Now the only thing we have to work on is viewing of the public profile, right? So we can click on it, we go here, we can see we don't have anything here yet, so let's implement this one as well. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some function up here. I mean, it's going to use user.getUser with a profile ID. All right, so here we are returning not found from next navigation if we don't get a user. Right, so we throw an error and that error is going to be catched here, so we're going to say user not found. Alright, so let me import users as well from utils users. So we are using the same function here. Now when we come here, we can just say constant, and we're going to get the user ID from params, right, like this. And here we can just say constant. Alright, so we get a profile ID, just like we are passing here, profile ID with params. Let's make sure this is on a sync. Alright, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say user with get user, which is this one. We pass the profile ID, so it's going to get the user. If not, it's going to return not found. It's a user not found. And if there is a user, then we are going to say const. Alright, so the user is what we're going to pass here. Alright, but then we want to also check if it is their own profile. Alright, so we do Supabase is equal to create client. Alright, and then create client is supposed to be from the server. Alright, and here we are going to say const data. Let's actually do get user. Alright, and then here we are going to do user, which is going to be the current user. And then to check that it is their own profile, we do const s on profile is equal to current user dot id. It's gonna be optional, so is equal to user dot id. Right, and then yeah, we pass that down here as well. So we need to await the server one. All right, so await, and that should be fine. All right, so we check that the current user, that is a logged in user's ID, is equal to the user ID, that is the ID we are getting here. Yeah, we are not using this one. We can do console dot error, and then we pass error here. For development purposes, we can remove this one after. Alright, so let's check it out if we are able to view the user's profile. And there you go. Right, so we have the user's profiles. Right, so the name, and we have the button here to say edit profile, which is going to take you to where you can edit your profile. But then we have the profile photo, we have their bio, and then the links. Nice. We can also go back to edit profile again. Yeah, then we should be able to see this. Now it is time to create the projects page. All right, so we are going to create the projects page next. All right, so I'm going to close all the opened editors, and then I'm going to create a new page. Right, inside it, we are going to have page.tsx. Now we are going to have a couple of components relating to this page. Right, so I'm going to create another folder called components. And then also we would have the page where we show the Kanban board, right? So this is where we're going to see the Kanban board. Come back to this one a bit later. If I show you the finished app, so here we have the profile details on the left side here, and on the right side we have the list of projects. We have some tabs here. We have a search. We have a button to create a new project, and then we have the project list down here. All right. Together with all these options. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, just to save time, I'm going to get all these components in place, and then I'm going to walk you through the components before we start implementing them. Alright, so I have added a couple of components, and we are going to go through. So you can see here, let's start from here. Alright, it's the projects page. You can see that I have the account details and then the projects. So what I showed you from the finished app, right? So we have the account details, and then this is the project section. Right, so here I do flex call, that is on small devices, and flex roll on larger devices. And you notice that we would need the user details, the initial user details, and we would also need the user projects. So we have to load the user details and then the initial and then the user projects here so that we can display them. So just like we did in the previous one, we are going to load the user details. We get the user. If there isn't any user, we will just redirect them to login. Right, that's what we are doing here. But then if there is user, we get the user details, and then here we pass the user details. All right, so we have the user details here. We need to be able to display the user projects as well. Now we need to go into this component to make sure that the component is accepting the initial projects. The project would have an ID, name, description, readme, created by, updated at, and then this boolean called closed. And so here is where we're going to identify the user who created the project. All right, we are not using it yet, but let's keep it like this for now, and then let's go back here and then save it. We just want to check that everything is displaying okay. The user details displaying correctly. We have the section here. There are no projects yet, so you can see you don't have any active projects yet. So yeah, let's first of all work on this side here so that the user can edit their profile here. You can reuse the profile form, and then yeah, you can pass some props to it, make it editable, and then be able to update stuff. All right, we can click on edit. We can add a new link, say x https://x.com/user, and then we can click on save, and then profile updated successfully. All right, so yeah, this one is same as the profiles page 1. Now let's work on the project side. So first of all, we have to load the user projects. For that too, I'm going to go to utils function here, going to call it projects.ts, and then I'm going to say export, and then here we are going to implement the get user projects. Now user project is made up of projects that I'm a member of, and then projects that I created myself. These are the two projects that we are going to be loading. Now we need to go to Supabase and look at the tables we have. All right, so here you can see that we have the project table, and here we have the details of the project. We have the created by, which references the user who created the project. It's a foreign key, so if I click on it, you'd see that yeah, this user created that project. If I go back and then click on another one, let's see this one. Yeah, it's the same user. Let's check the middle one. Yeah, so this user created this project. All right, so we have the project table, and then we also have the project members table. So if a user is invited to a project, they will be saved here. All right, and here you can see we have project ID, which references the project that the user was invited to, and then we also have the user ID, which is the user who has been invited to this project. All right, and for a project member, we have other properties like role, which is the permission that the user have on that particular project. We have invitation status, whether it is accepted or invited or whatever. We also have invited at, joined at, and then updated at. So you can go ahead and then create your table, and then make sure you have all these columns there. Now, one thing I've not been mentioning is the fact that all your tables are supposed to have row level security policies enabled. So we are going to be working with project and then project members. So when we are loading users projects, we are going to be loading the projects that the user created, and then the projects that they are a member of. I am going to load them simultaneously. Right, so I'm going to use promise.all to make sure I load them in parallel. So as simple as this, we do Supabase.from projects, select all the properties where the created by is equal to the user ID here. We want to order them in ascending order. It's basically going to show latest created projects first, right? Now, so we have to make sure we get Supabase in here. So I've just imported that up here. Now we have to load projects that the user is a member of. Let me bring that comment up here. This is the query for getting the project that the user is a member. So we do Supabase.from project members, and then we do select. Now here, what we are doing is we are getting all the fields from the projects table, right? So we get all the fields using the star, and then we alias it as project, where the user ID is equal to the user ID we provide, and then invitation status is accepted. So we don't want to load projects that you've not accepted the invitations to. And here we are also doing the othering, but we want to make sure we exclude the projects that were created by the user, because we are loading that here, and then we load that by the created by. It means that the results I am going to get, I'm going to get owned projects, and I am also going to get say member projects. If there is an error in loading any of the projects, we're just going to throw the error. If there are no errors, then we are going to combine the two and then return it as the user's projects. So that is the alias, and then we would have it in a list, in one list. Return all projects dot as I project. So let's save it, and then let's go and then try it here. We're going to load the user's projects. Let's pass it to here. Let's console log it and see. Alright, so let's see what we get. So we're not going to get any data because this user doesn't have any project. Alright, so as you can see, it is empty here. This is just a hydration error. Let's try and log it with a different user. So let's log out from this user. Alright, so now we are seeing some projects here. Let's display the project here. So let's go to projects again. We are getting the project list here. Let's remove the log. And here where we have the project tabs, right? So we are going to pass it to all projects. So let's save it. And then let's go to project tabs. We have all projects here. We pass it to project list. So here you'd see that we have a project item. So we loop through the project and then we display a project item. So this is how the project item component looks like. Right, so we display the project name. Yeah, project name. So we are checking if the project is closed. That if it is closed, it means we won't have the link to take you to the project details, that is the board. That's why we have this check here. So we render a different name for them. So if the project is not closed, then we would have the link to take you to the board. We also have a badge which says whether it is closed or active. We see the description here, and then we also have the project actions. Now for the project actions, it's a drop down where you see the reopen, delete permanently, and then close project. So if I go back here and I go to all projects, as you can see, we have all the projects. All right, now we need to filter and then display the active and then a closed project as well. Yeah, let's go to projects component here. As you can see, this is all projects. Now we need to pass active project and then closed project as well, and for that we are going to do some filtering up here. That is very simple to do. All right, so we have active projects. We do initial projects dot filter where the project is not closed, and then for closed project we check whether the project is closed. All right, and then we pass those here as well. So when we go back, we would see that they are displaying here all active project. They are not closed project yet. All right, and then we get other project here too. Now we need to also make sure that the search is working depending on which page you are on. Right, so here I'm going to add a state here, search term, and I am going to pass the search term here to this project tabs, and then set search term. Go to the project tabs again, and here we have the search and button. Right, so this shows the search and then button. Right, so the search and then the button, and here they accept the search term, and then on search they would update their search term. So that's the reason why we pass it to this component, so that that component can pass it down to this. For the different tabs, we pass them, right, for this one as well. So this is for all projects, this is for closed project, and then this is for active projects. So we are reusing the same component, search and button, and then we are just passing different placeholders. We pass the search term. For the filtered projects, we are going to use memo to do that. So we will add some dependencies here, search term, and also initial projects. I'm going to create available projects and then set the default value to initial project here, so that I can use that here instead. Nice. So that, yeah, we would be able to update the available projects. Going to do available projects dot filter, right, and then we are transforming the search term into all lowercase, so that we would be able to search against the name and description. Right? So where the name and description matches the search term, and here we are transforming to lowercase as well. Right? We would return them as filtered products. Right? So you can see we are returning here. So let's make sure we are importing use memo, and then here let's replace these ones with filtered project, and also this with filtered projects. So let's save it and see if we can search. Right, so let's try and say test, and there you go. We can be able to search that project. So if I do fmt, yeah, that is working. So we have to also make the sorting work from newest to oldest and from oldest to newest, right? So by default, it is from newest to oldest. So let's go back to VS Code. Let's add another state. Let's say sort order. And then here we're going to say set sort order. Right, and then it's going to be newest. Right. Now, here inside project tabs, project list header. Yes, so here project list header, we have the drop down menu, that is a sorting menu. When you click, it's going to call the onsort and pass the value, whether newest or oldest. All right, so that's what we are parsing here. So we're going to get that other way here, and then handle sort, which is going to set sort order. All right, so we're going to pass the sort order, but either newest or oldest here. All right, and we are going to pass that here, and then we are also going to make sure we pass the sort order state here. Where we do the filter here, we are going to also do sort like this, and then here we get a greeted at date, right? We get a timestamp, and if it is newest, then we are going to sort using date b minus date a. Otherwise, we're going to sort the other way around, right? Alright, so because we are using the sort order here, we have to make sure we pass that as a dependency here as well, and this one should be fine. Let's also test for the sorting. Yeah, as you can see, we have the latest one appearing here. So it's newest. When we switch to oldest, we get it. Right, so from oldest to newest, newest to oldest, that is working fine. Right, so now we're able to get the projects. We are able to search, we're able to sort as well. So we should be able to close the project, and that should be simple enough. Let's go back to VS Code here. Right, so under details, projects, let's add another function. I'm going to group some of these, right? So for example, closing of the project, deleting of the project, updating, creation of the project. I'm going to group them under management, right? So that is under project management here. Close function, which is an async function, it accepts the project ID, and I have to add a comma here. What this is doing is, it is so Supabase from projects update, right? So we are updating the close column, setting it to true, right? And then we're also updating the updated at date, and then this is where the project, where the ID is equal to project ID, we pass it here. If there is an error, we return the error, we throw the error. Right, so we are going to use this one. So we're gonna say const handle close project. So we do projects.management.close, When there is an error, we are going to show a toast. We would show a toast when it is successful as well. Now you'd see that there is the close project dialog here, right? So this is a dialog that is going to let you confirm if you want to close the project. When you confirm, on confirm is where we are going to call this so that it will close the project. But when you click on the option that is in the menu to close the project, what we want to do is we want to set the project you want to close in a state here. So that's the project ID in a state here, and then once you confirm, then it's going to take that ID and pass it to this, and then it will close the project. So here I'm going to add another state here to keep track of the project to close, which says project to close, and then set project to close. Now you'd see that here I have set project to close function here. I'm going to put this there. We have inside project actions, that is close. And then we are going to make sure that we show the dialog. Right, so the dialog is going to be shown when there is a project to close. Right, so here, instead of false here, we are going to say dot project to close, like this. So whenever this is set, then it's going to open the dialog. All right, so here is where we are going to close the modal. Right, so it's going to trigger this. It's going to call this function here. So this is where we're going to set the project to close to null. When we come here, what we're going to do is we are going to say if there is no project to close, then return. Otherwise, then we are going to make sure we pass the ID to the close function here. So here we can do set available project. So this is how we are going to update the project inside our local state here. So finally, then we set project to close to null. Let's put a temporal console.error here so that we're able to see the actual error message whenever there is an error in development. So we can test this out and see if it is working. So let's go to the app. Right, so let's actually try and then close this project. Click on it. So we get a dialog here which says, are you sure you want to close this project? You can reopen it later from the close project tab. So we click on close, and as you can see, it is successful and it disappears from here. So we go to closed project, and here we can see that it is under closed project. Right. Let's also implement reopen. Since we've closed the project, we should be able to reopen the project. Very similar to closing of the project, because we are just going to set that close to false. I have also, let me collapse this. I have also added one more state here, project to reopen, and then we check it here, we pass it here and here, and we also make sure that we get it passed to its dialog, right, which is down here. So very similar to the project to close one, and we're going to do something similar for the delete as well. So let's check that this one is also working. When we go to closed project, as you can see, it's here, and here when we go here, like you see, closed. So even if we refresh it, we see it as a closed project. I will do reopen. Click on it. So reopened successfully. It is now active. We come here, it is now active. We refresh it and check that it updated the database as well, and yeah, it is active. The next thing is working on deleting it permanently. Right, so we can do close it, and then when we come here, we have the option to delete it permanently. So let's work on that as well. Alright, so similarly, we add the handle delete project function here, and we have the project to delete state here. Alright, and we make sure we call the delete, which we have here. We are going to call this here, and then we have the delete dialog as well. We want to pass the project name to the delete dialog. Alright, so we need the project name there. We're going to ask users to enter the name of the project, so we are going to compare with the name as well. And you can see that this one I am doing .name because I am saving the actual project, right? So here it is I project, not just the ID, so we can get the name like this. So let's actually test it again. All right, so let's go to closed project, this test project here. Can we delete it permanently? Let's try and see. Let's check why. Yes, here we are setting the wrong, we are using the wrong function. It's supposed to be set project to delete. Yeah, so it's not setting the project to be deleted. So let's check again. Let's try and delete. Yeah, so button is disabled. Please type test project. All right, so let's go and then make the name a bit brighter. Can make it a bit brighter. Yeah, let's see for light team. So if we try to click delete, yeah, that is a bit highlighted. So we have to enter the name of the project, test project, and once the name is correct, if I delete any part of the name, it's not going to enable it. So I have to enter the correct project name here, and then I can click on delete, and yeah, success. Project deleted successfully. So we go here, it's not here. We go here, it's not here. Let's refresh. Alright, so the only thing left on this page to work on is the ability to create new project.